So we were walking around the ship, and we didn't have a lot of activity. We heard some things. We didn't really experience much, but we went into the room and essentially laid down, went to sleep. My wife and I shared a bed, and then a couple other people shared a bed, and a couple of people slept on the floor. And essentially, I guess in the middle of the night, my arm literally started to lift up, and people saw it. And I essentially, you know, got up and told whatever it was. I don't remember any of this to stop messing with me. And I laid back down. It happened again. And I said, yeah, I got up. I said, like, get away from me or something like that. And everybody's looking at me at that point in time. I think I'm almost awake at that point. And they're like, what the hell? And they're like, they have saw it happen. So that was kind of interesting. Something was trying to get me up out of bed. It was like they were trying to pull me up out of bed, which was cool. Another couple of things that happened on the Queen Mary. We were in room B30, 340. I'm not going to get into too much detail. Anyways, we were in there for a couple hours, had no activity. And then, well, hello, my paranormal peeps, and welcome back to another Deep Woods Paranormal podcast. My name is Matt Harvey. I am the founder and lead investigator with Deep Woods Paranormal. I'm also your host of the Deep Woods Paranormal podcast, along with my wife, Amanda. We investigate pretty much anything paranormal, be it ghosts, haunted locations, UFOs, Bigfoot, cryptid creatures, lake monsters, river monsters, strange lights, UFOs. If it's paranormal in nature, we investigate it. We're a true paranormal team. So, anyways, we're going to start today on the Anything Goes Paranormal podcast with a quick disclaimer. These are just my accounts of things that have happened. I just want to know that you guys, these are my experiences I'm going to talk about today. So some stuff has proof, some stuff doesn't. We've had a lot of experiences where unfortunately we haven't been able to get it on camera or audio or something. Mainly when we're setting up or whatever, and something happens, it's like, oh. So I'm going to go kind of back into, way back here, especially because we have so many new listeners and viewers over on the YouTube and Rumble channel, that basically I want to go back into those topics a little bit and talk about some of my favorite places. So Amanda and I met back in our senior year of high school. Just a little bit of history about us. We got married about 8 years later, and we've lived in almost everywhere we've lived. We've had some kind of strange occurrences, let's just put it that way. Some crazier than others. And Amanda's kind of talked about some of these things on her ghost stories, which we're trying to get her to get back to doing her ghost stories. But for now, I'll kind of share some stories with you guys too. So let's go back to where it kind of all started. Back in 1995, 96, Amanda and I would just basically go out to different locations that were said to be haunted. The Quuen Mary, the Whaley House, you name it, we went to it. We spent a lot of time up in Los Angeles and Hollywood. We basically visited anywhere that was said to be haunted. So sometimes we'd have friends come with us, sometimes we wouldn't. And so when the show called Ghosthunters came on, everybody looked at me and they're like, Matt, that's you. I'm like, oh, okay. So essentially, we started a group. At first it started out with those friends that went with us that were interested in the paranormal. And over time, those people, they just were enthusiasts. They didn't want to do it full time like I did. And so we essentially had some people drop off, but we met other people along the way. We had a cool journey for about 15 years with the California Ghost Hunters. And I am grateful to everyone. If you're one of our old members, we miss you and we really appreciate you. And thank you for helping us do what we did. And I'm sure all the people we helped are also very grateful. I appreciate all the time and effort you guys put into reviewing audio, reviewing video, sitting with me, watching the DVRs, and stuff like that. So, anyways, let's get into certain places that we went. Amanda and I spent. Apologize, my phone is deciding to make a whole lot of noise all of a sudden. Um, Amanda and I spent a lot of time on the Queen Mary. We went with friends. We went by ourselves. We spent the night a couple of times in different locations, different places in the ship. Um, so, one of my favorite memories of the Queen Mary was basically we went on a ghost hunt the night before. I think we were with Erica Frost. She was actually doing the tour, which is awesome. And we were basically we went through the whole ship. We spent like extra time. She took us through and allowed us to go into places that normally people don't get to go to. Because we were a TAPS family member team, and she knew we weren't going to do anything stupid. But we basically got to investigate different places. One thing about the Queen Mary that people don't know, where the pool area is, that's not the first class pool. Where the movie theater is, or the theater is, that was the first class pool. So, yeah, do the little kids that kind of hang out in that area go into those areas? Yes. And I've done a whole thing on the Queen Mary, so I'm not going to get into it. If you guys want to know more about the Queen Mary, you can go back into that. But essentially, we had gone through the pool area. We were listening for anything. We were listening for the little girl. We never heard anything. We went into the dressing rooms, and that was creepy. I was by myself, and I felt like there was at least one other person in there with me. And that just, I don't get creeped out very often, but that really that got to me. So we were only in there for about 5-10 minutes, and then finally I said, okay, I got to get out of here. But we went around and we did other things. So we spent the night in one of the haunted rooms. Supposedly, we were in the presidential suite. We had like 7 or 8 people staying in the room with us, and essentially, we were asleep. And around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, we basically got up, and so we were in room B340, and we were in there for a couple of hours. All right, guys, I apologize for that. I have a dog that will not stop barking. Every time I start talking, he starts barking in the background, and I don't want that in my audio. So, anyways, um, we were in room B340 for a couple hours, had almost no activity. And then a couple of us were on the one side of the room in the actual room B340. The other people were in the other side, which is basically opened up, and it's room B349. I'm sorry, yeah, 339. And essentially, it started getting thick and heavy. I'm like, there's something going on. There must be something here. Let's give it a few more minutes. And nobody wanted to stay. It was hot in there. It was muggy, and we weren't experiencing anything, and I don't blame them. So we left, and as we started walking up the B deck towards the bow, I turned around and took like 10 or 11 photos. These were on a very, very new digital camcorder. I think there was 5 megapixels, which was really high for that point in time. And I looked back, and on the 10th photo, there's a shadow standing just outside of room B340, staring at us. It's like, what took you so long to leave? So, anyways, yeah, that was fun. We spent a lot more time there. Recently, our last trip there was with a friend. I'm not going to give her a name, but we're super grateful that she invited us. And we did, a whole boat tour. We went through the whole area. We were up in the area where the military men were unfortunately perished when the ship ran over the warship in England. And people say they hear screams and cries coming from up there. They hear different things. We were up there, and we were doing a spirit box session with another gentleman who runs the tour. And as we sat there, I went to get up, and all of a sudden, Well, I was kind of sitting where the ropes kind of go in on the sides of the bow. And I turned and I looked, and there's this guy. And I'm like, who the hell are you? But his face was all bloody. His face had like blood running down the side of it. And I realized he was in a World War II military outfit. And I went, oh. And he just glared at me like, why are you in here? I didn't hear anything, but I definitely saw him. He was as solid as I am. I mean, he was there for good 3 or 4 seconds before he disappeared, and I realized that he wasn't real. I'm like, where did this guy come from? I didn't even realize that he was here. And yeah, he just glared at me like, you're not supposed to be up here. We don't want to talk to you. You need to go. So, anyways, like I said, we spent a lot of time on the Queen Mary. I mean, we were there every other weekend, probably just walking around trying to experience something. Other people on my team got cool things from there, but I'm not going to talk about their evidence because it's theirs. So, also, we spent some time at the Whaley House. One time, unfortunately, all these pictures are gone. When I posted that UFO video over Orange County on my YouTube channel and my Facebook channel, which both got wiped, my computer, along with my external hard drive, also got wiped. 20 plus years of video evidence, audio evidence, pictures of full body apparitions, all gone. Just wiped it all out. So essentially, we were at the Whaley House, and we went, by the kids' room upstairs. We went upstairs, and I took a picture, and I got what looks like a little kid sitting on the floor. She must be, God, a year old, 2 years old. She's just old enough to sit up, and she was playing with blocks. And she's transparent. She's not clear. And that was cool. Another thing that happened at the Whaley House is we were there with some other friends, and we went upstairs. And as I was walking upstairs, I just felt like somebody jumped on my back. And I literally turned around to look to see if one of my friends was playing a prank on me and just screwing with me. And I'm like, nope, there's nobody there. Got up to the stairs, up to the top of the stairs, looked around, came back down. And thank God my friend was there who could see what was going on. And he told it to leave. It was actually Yankee Jim. And I've gone into Yankee Jim. We talked about Whaley House a few times too. So I'm not going to go into that either. But one of my favorite haunts, and one of the places I gave the tours at, let me actually backtrack. Let me go back into another place, but this was the place we did the tours. We were at what's called the Suicide Bridge in Pasadena, in California. It's a cool location. You have to be extremely careful. There is spirits there that want to hurt you. They are angry. They're frustrated. They jump to their own deaths, and they want you to do the same thing. I'll just put that disclaimer out there. You may go and not experience anything, but if you go and you're looking down from the bridge from the top, sometimes you'll see shadows, especially next to the government installation. They like run around the building kind of strangely and stuff like that. I think they've actually made it so you can't go down below anymore, below the bridge during the nighttime. It's blocked off. But anyways, back when you could. So I basically was doing a tour one night. I had a clipboard with a list of names. I checked everyone off. I had 17 people. And I did a head count, and other people did a head count. We did 2 people did a head count. Both people counted 17. So as we basically walked across the bridge, had almost no activity. Nothing happened, right? We walked to the other side, went down the stairs, came back up the other side to walk back across the bridge and see if we could experience anything. And as we got about 3/4 of the way across, all of a sudden, somebody in the group, I see them. They had blue jeans on, white sneakers. I can just describe them perfectly. A red jacket with must have been like an Adidas jacket or something. It had white stripes down the side, backpack on. And I couldn't quite make out the face, but they literally turned and looked at me and then climbed up. They were about, I don't know, 8 or 9 steps ahead of me. They were at the very front of the group. literally climb up over the railing and literally jumped. I was on it like, sting on poop. I was right behind him. I climbed up on the railing on the inside, not the outside, and looked down, and everybody's pulling me back. And I'm going, well, somebody just jumped. And so we went through and we did a count again, 16. And I'm like, what the hell? So I started doing a roll call, called out everybody's names. Everybody was there. Nobody was unaccounted for. And there was nobody at the bottom of the bridge. So I don't know what that was, but something was trying to get me maybe to jump. And that's why I always tell people, I've talked about the suicide bridge before, I believe, that you have to be super careful. There's also possibly Bigfoot activity under the bridge. It is in the area, a rural area, where it's kind of foresty down there. There are deer and stuff like that and other animals. There is a freshwater creek that goes through there. And then we've also we got tons of EVPs down below. And then, we'd hear people walking around. We see the shadows and stuff like that. And that was just a cool location. Wouldn't mind going back there sometime. I don't know if you can get down below anymore, but anyways, so moving on. One of my favorite places was Black Star Canyon. I pretty much lived up there for 3-4 years. After I kind of disbanded the California Ghost Hunters and gave it to a friend, said, hey, take the group, do what you want with it. I basically took about a month or two off. I needed to kind of clear my head, get myself back focused on what I was supposed to be doing. I was still helping people here and there in their homes. But essentially, I was basically on my own. And every once in a while, Amanda and other people would come with me. But I used to go up to, when I first started, I would go up to Black Star Canyon just because it kind of drew me there. It was a place where everybody said, oh, you shouldn't go there. That's not safe. You shouldn't be out there by yourself at night, especially at night. It's evil. It's this, it's that. I don't think Black Star's evil. I think people are just scared, mainly because it's very secluded. I mean, if you scream, nobody's going to hear you unless there's somebody else there. And even then, they may not hear you. So, I mean, the chances of getting help out there, if something did happen, are remote. Very hard to get cell phone service out there and stuff like that. So I would walk a couple miles in, 3-4 miles sometimes in, and just explore to see what I could experience. One of my favorite things was the shadow people. The shadow people seemed to be very intelligent up there. They would dart back and forth across the road. And then basically they would light up the K2 meter sometimes. There was a lady in white who I figured out was the lady that drowned her kids in the Santa Ana River. I found out that actually, because she haunts San Juan Capistrano too, but she actually more pertains to Black Star, because that's where she killed her kids. That's where the river part of where she drowned her kids, because she was mad at her husband for cheating on her. And then of course something bad happened to her. I think she was locked away, and then she was basically from San Juan Capistrano. I think she was essentially locked up for a couple of days, and then basically they told her to get out of town, don't come back, stuff like that. So she was exiled out of San Juan Capistrano. And so basically, I call her the lady in white, but she looks like she has a long wedding gown on. So I don't know why she portrays herself like that, but I had seen her multiple times. Sometimes I saw her in a big white bubble floating over the creek, and now that all kind of makes sense to me. But as I went into Black Star Canyon, I mean, Black Star Canyon is one of those locations where anything could happen. Anything paranormal could happen. You could see a dog man. You could see a cryptid. You could see a Bigfoot. You could see a UFO. You could see a ghost. You could see a shadow person. If it's paranormal in nature, it probably could have happened there. I don't know why that canyon is so messed up like that. But there's been a lot of murders that have happened. A lot of people have been unfortunately killed up there. without basically anybody knowing what happened to him. There's a lot of unsolved mysteries. There was a gentleman that was found completely charred. The only way they could identify him was by his teeth, I think. Um, there's motorcycle accidents that happen up and down Santiago Canyon Road. Um, I had a biker. I had a experience with a biker where he essentially, basically walked by us one night. We could hear him walking in the gravel. I was up there one night. It was a little foggy, but I could see pretty clear. And I was just taking picture after picture, and he appears. He looks a lot like me, but he had an open T-shirt, wasn't wearing a hat, had the aviator sunglasses on, and looked like he had a leather jacket on too. And he appeared for me, which was cool. Um, I developed a relationship with the spirits out there, and to the point where I could say, have you seen a Bigfoot? And I know everybody's like, what? Um, take all this with a grain of salt. Like I said, I never expect anybody to believe until they've had their own encounter where they can say it couldn't be anything else but. In this case, you put a ghost in there, Bigfoot, whatever. So these are just my experiences. This is what happened to me. These are just my stories. If you want to believe them, that's fine. If you don't want to believe them, hey, that's cool too. Go out to Black Star Canyon sometime, see what you experience. But be safe if you're going to go out there. Have a bunch of water, have some extra food, have a first aid kit, because a lot of people they fall, they get hurt, they scrape their knees, they break something, and cell phone service is very spotty out there. Spirits out there do like to drain batteries. If you have a camera, a phone, whatever, it's not uncommon for them to drain. I just got to put that out there as well. So, basically, one time I was walking in and at the K2, I was basically just ghost hunting, and all of a sudden I start hearing like rocks clicking together really quickly. And I'm like, what the heck? And I had a K2 in my hand. You can go back and watch the Black Star videos, or Black Star Canyon videos. I don't know if they're still up. My other account never did get put back up on YouTube. It was sad. We had, I don't know, 20, 30,000 subscribers and stuff like that. Anyways, so essentially, walking up there, and I asked this, then the K2 started going off. I'm like, are you hearing that? And they answered yes. They lit up the K2 for yes. And the K2, if you don't know what a K2 is a very sensitive EMF detector that basically picks up any little thing. I mean, your cell phone can set it off, anything, and the cameras can't. But like a wall socket, a microwave, an oven, refrigerators, anything like that can basically, anything that creates EMF can set off those devices. And EMF is just energy. We have an EM pump that also, basically creates energy, and we can't be around those with the K2s because it'll set it off and give us a false reading. Anyways, I'm sorry to be back and forth on my story. I just have to fill people in because a lot of people are new here and they don't understand what these devices are or what I'm talking about. Anyways, I should have had a picture up here to show you. So, anyways, well, actually, you know what? Hold on a second. Let me share my screen. I don't know what's up. Let's see. That is our podcast page. Let's see if we can look up K2 meter, so people can visually see it. If you want to come on here and see it, you can see how much ghost hunting gear costs. It's expensive. So this is a K2 meter. Essentially, you can see this first light. It's always on, but we ask them to light the lights up all the way across, or we'll ask them to set light up 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 if they can. Most spirits, unless they have a lot of energy, can't light up more than 1 or 2. So essentially, to get to 5, I mean, that's a very strong entity. And we basically, those are the entities we really like to talk to because they can do other things. All right, let me stop sharing my screen. So, anyways, I kept hearing the clicking, and it kept going. I think there's a video of it. And the K2, I said, have you seen a Bigfoot? And it lit up for yes. And so as I'm sitting there doing that, all of a sudden I hear a noise to my right, and I'm just about there's a berm as you walk in through the canyon. There's a gate, so you can't drive in anymore. It's basically a single access road, not a dual access road, a single road that goes out into all over the place, out in the mountains, in the Santa Ana Mountains in California. Essentially, it's a fire access road at this point, and so if you're not a firefighter or something, you're not really allowed to get up in there. But um, I kept going, and all of a sudden I hear like another sound to my right, up above, on the berm above me. It's clicking again. It was like following me as I was walking. It was walking, but I couldn't hear it. This berm basically went up and then came back down with a little slope on the top, and there was trees. There was a line of trees all across it. So essentially, it would be a great place to defend. If you wanted to be up there, people couldn't see you. I mean, you can't see up there unless you go up there and look down. I stood up there one day and watched a bunch of people walk by, and I was just chuckling to myself. I don't think anybody heard me, but I watched them walk by, and they didn't even know I was there. I was up there looking for evidence of Bigfoot activity. There's like an old TV up there, old burned out TV. Somebody lit it on fire, and just a bunch of junk. But so as I kept going, all of a sudden I got about another 10 or 15 feet, and I hear this god awful scream, and it sounded like a woman being murdered. And all of a sudden you see these kids just running, and they're in terror. They're like screaming and themselves and running, and not like what the noise was. I mean, this scream echoed off all the canyons. I mean, off all the mountains, because it's kind of a ravine in there, and it just echoed off the walls. And so that was cool. I've told this story many times of Black Star, but I was up there. I'm not going to talk about my first Bigfoot experience because I talk about it all the time. I was actually going up there to do some ghost hunting. It was a quiet night. Nothing had really happened. I hadn't heard anything, seen anything, which was uncommon for Black Star Canyon. There was like no activity at all. No shadows, no ghosts, no K2 hits. It was just dead quiet. It was weird. It was kind of eerie. So I walked up to where the trees grew over. And if you don't know what Black Star Canyon is famous for, it was an old area where they used to mine black coal. And so there's mines still all over the place in there. Some of them are in the walls of the hills. Some of them, are vertical shafts. And supposedly they have methane in them, so you wouldn't want to go down them. And then there's, of course, the famous area they call the waterfall, where water comes out of one of the old mines that they basically dug into the side of a hill. And when it rains, it actually has to rain quite a bit for the waterfall to be active. Otherwise, it's just dry. There's also supposedly somebody sent me a picture of a Bigfoot print in like a rock. I'm guessing it was mud at that time, and it's petrified. It's really old. So, I don't know how old it is, but it's old. Anyways, getting back to my story, I was walking up about a mile in where the trees grew over. We called it where the trees grew over because it's creepy. I mean, it looks like a tunnel, big dark tunnel, and then you go out, you keep going up the hill, and then on the right is where the mines are. So I'm walking up there, and as I got to that area, I heard a growl, and I'm like, okay. Now there's mountain lions up there, and I had seen in that same area a mountain lion jump the barbed wire fence on the right, walk across the path, jump the barbed wire fence on the left, and keep going up. That was weird. What is that? That. It's like a clock. There's no clock like that behind me. It's been a weird day. Things are getting weirder and weirder. Can't even tell you. Anyways, I'll talk about that maybe on the next one. Okay, well, maybe I should. Well, let me finish this story and I'll tell you guys another quick story that just happened to me a few minutes ago. So, um, I'm up there and I'm hearing this growling and it's coming from the right side. And I'm looking over there with my flashlight. I can't hear anything, but I'm hearing like something trudging through the brush, but there's nothing there. And so I kind of ignored it, thinking it's mountain lion. I set up my camera on the other side of the road, facing me to where that noise is coming from, and an audio recorder, which I set in a tree. And I was sitting there thinking, okay, if a mountain lion jumps up behind me, at least somebody will have some video evidence of the mountain lion. I was kind of keeping my eye behind me, kind of listening and stuff like that. And then it just kind of died down. I'm like, okay, that's cool. And so I started doing my EVP session. I'm asking questions, trying to communicate with whatever's there. And essentially, all of a sudden, I hear a growl come from the left side of the road. And that's where the creek is. It's dry. It was dry at this point. When it rains up there, it floods. But anyways, so it's dry. You can walk down there. If you can get over or under the barbed wire fence, you can get down to that area. So essentially, I'm hearing grunting and growling. I'm like, what the hell? So I grab the camera and I'm pointing it that direction towards the creek. And as I'm standing there, I can actually see the camera didn't pick it up, unfortunately. I think the settings were wrong. This is with an old night vision camera. I had a lot of little IR lights on it on the top to hopefully be able to see at least 5-6 feet. You could only see about 5 or 6 feet. So it wasn't that dark, but that camera didn't had very limited ability to see at night unless it had more things to reflect off of. The IR light had to reflect off of something to bounce back and allow the camera to see more. I wish I could have changed the settings down to, change the ISO up or whatever on the camera, but you couldn't do it. So essentially I'm sitting there and all of a sudden this bush starts back and forth. And I'm like, well, what is that? And so then I realized it's a Bigfoot. It's one of the ones I call the bouncers. This guy, I'm pretty sure it's a male, he's about 7 feet tall, 6-7 feet tall. No, he's probably a little bit taller than that. He's probably about 8 feet tall. He's about 2 feet, a foot and a half, 2 feet taller than I was. I'm 6'2". So, and he's almost as wide as he is tall. Big burly chest, big huge arms. I mean, the arms on that thing, they're just massive. And it's brown, essentially real dark brown. And it's sitting there just shaking the bush back and forth and grunting, ooh, 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 as it's doing it. I'm like, okay. And then all of a sudden, this went on for about a minute or two. And then all of a sudden it just darted to the I guess it was to his left up the creek. And that's where I'd seen them before. And if you heard me talking about Black Star Canyon and Bigfoot research, you'll hear me talk about the creek a lot because that basically was like their highway. It was down in an area where you couldn't really see unless you were up high enough. And I have other stories about that. Anyways, so long story short, I thought I got him on camera. I thought I got it on video camera. I was like, oh my God, I got it. And so I was super excited. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to wrap up my night with that. Not expecting to have anything else happen, right? So I'm walking back down and I'm about 200-300 feet from where I just was. And I get to an area where the hillsides kind of slopes down. And it's probably about 3 feet, 4 feet tall. Where it slopes down and kind of levels off where they cut the road through. And so there's an embankment there. And as I'm walking down, for some reason, I was on the left side of the road. I just didn't feel comfortable being on the right side because that's where the creek was. And I'm like, okay, if this thing's following me, it's going to probably follow me to the right. I didn't know it had flanked me. It literally had gone down the creek, gone back up, and gone back up the hill. And that hill is 40, 50, 60 feet tall, almost vertical. So how it did it, I don't know. Maybe it was the other one. I believe they were twins. I believe that what I call the bouncer. There's two of them. They look almost exactly alike. And so I call them the bouncers because they're big and burly and they're not super tall. Anyways, I'm walking down and all of a sudden to my left, I just turned and glanced like this, kind of where my chin was almost even with my left shoulder. And I look over and there's this thing. It's just crouched down. I mean, it must have been 5, 6 feet tall, crouched down, and it's just big burly thing. I could see it. I could see the hair. I can still see it in my head today. Had red glowing eyes. And I'm like, ugh. And I didn't see anything. I didn't do anything. I just sped up my pace about a little bit. I didn't want to run because I didn't know what would happen if I would run. If I ran, it probably would have given chase. I just think it would have chased me. It would have probably chased me down, and who knows what would have happened after that. I was within a foot of this thing. I mean, I could have reached out and touched it. If I was a little bit braver, if I wasn't in shock from what I had just seen, maybe I would have turned around and grabbed the camera and turned it back on. I don't know what I was. At this point, I wasn't thinking. I was more scared as hell than anything. And I mean, that was a super close. That's the closest I've. Well, no, I take that back. That is one of the closer encounters I've had with these guys. I've had another encounter where I almost ran into one, right into the stomach of one. If it hadn't growled, I basically wouldn't have, would have walked right into it. Anywho, so yeah, I turned and looked, and then I turned my head back like I didn't see it, and then I basically walked about 6 steps. I remember walking, and my heart was going so fast. I can remember my heart was almost beating out of my chest. And I finally stopped, and something said to me, "You gotta get that on video. You gotta turn around and get that on video." Because I should have been able to get it on video for where I was. And I turned around, and I looked, and it was gone. It made no noise. It was just gone. I didn't hear it move at all. Didn't make any noise walking away. So if that wasn't enough, my heart was already racing fast enough. I turn around, and there's a shadow person standing literally right in front of me. And oh my God, that scared me too. I'm like, and like I said, I don't scare easily. But then, as I started walking back, I laughed. I said, "Okay, you got me." To the shadow person. I wasn't talking about the Bigfoot. But as I was walking back, I started hearing snap, crunch, tree branch break, and it literally followed me all the way down to where that turn is. And then I think I could feel them. I felt like I was being watched. Felt like something was kind of chasing me, if you will. But they were staying far away. They were staying up in the tree line. As you come around that corner, the area is kind of flat there because they used to have cattle and stuff in that area. So all the way up to where you get to that where berm right by the gate, and then it goes up and basically this little hill there. So yeah, basically all the way out to the gate, I just felt like I was being watched. And I remember the very first time we went to Black Star Canyon, we went with I think we had about 10 people, and we were walking. We had all kinds of strange things happen the night. This is back before, you could get really the night vision cameras or anything like that. I think we had a wind-up camera, like the disposable wind-up camera. We had a rope. We had some food with us, some water. I don't think. Let's see. I think we had a cell phone, but it was like $3 or $4 a minute, so we didn't want to use it, and there was no cell phone service up there. Anyways, we're just walking down the path, and we would stop, and just everybody in the group kept saying, "Matt, it feels like there's people all around us." And as we stop here, like somebody walking through the gravel with us, you could hear more footsteps, and we were all stopped. And I'm like looking around. I'm like looking at everybody, and I'm hearing these footsteps. I'm literally facing everybody and going, okay, yeah. But yeah, just a real special place. Um, so my ghost stories are taking forever here. I don't know how long I've been on this podcast. So let me kind of keep going, and then we can kind of continue this maybe next week. Um, let's go with one more story. Let's see. Let's see. What's a good one to tell? Hmm. Where was another place that had crazy activity? Um, I talked about that last week. Oh, I know what I was going to talk about. Smitty's Cafe. So when we first moved to Texas about 4 years ago, we went out to dinner. I'm sorry, we went out to lunch with my mother-in-law. She took us down there to go enjoy a tour of the Bluebell ice cream facilities and get a sample of the ice cream, which was very, very good, by the way. Highly recommend Bluebell ice cream. So we were basically we stopped at this little town, and basically uh, it's called the Smitty's Cafe and Bakery, I believe. Excuse me for 1 second. Sorry about that. So we had lunch there, and I'm sitting there and I'm going, this just feels weird in here. And I didn't know that that was a pre-Civil War location. That had been built back in the 1840s, 1850s, and been part of the Civil War, actually, part of the post-Civil War. Let's put it that way. So that town essentially was occupied by the North after the Civil War. And what happened was half the town was actually burned down at, one night when the citizens of that town essentially rose up and said, "Hey, we don't want you here anymore. You need to go." And so as the North left, the soldiers left, they lit a bunch of burnt buildings on fire. And I found out later that this is one of the buildings that caught fire. It didn't burn down, but it did catch fire. And the original owner, he just basically had a store there, like an old time store where you go in and you get all your supplies from. And so he essentially died in the building. So we essentially, I don't know where that clock keeps coming from. There's no clock like that in this room. Oh, I'll tell that story before I end that other story from what just happened a minute ago. So essentially, we went in and we left a business card with one of the ladies that worked there, and we didn't hear anything for like 6 months. And out of the blue, the manager calls me. She's like, "Yeah, I was cleaning out the register and I found your card." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." And she's like, "Yeah, this place is definitely haunted. Would you like to come in and check it out?" 2 years later, we had so many experiences in that place. I mean, it's two buildings. The front is a cafe, the back is a bar, and then there's a stage area which is really cool. They do live music up there. And the left side of the downstairs, the other building that adjoins it, was a pool hall and billiards hall, excuse me, and then upstairs was basically just storage above it. So we listened to their claims and all this other stuff. We caught so much stuff there. I mean, you really got to go watch Smitty's Cafe, the video of it. It's a little long, but there's so much evidence. We caught couple little kids, shadow kids, playing by the pool hall, running behind the bar, which is one of their claims. They supposedly got a picture of it. We heard footsteps. We heard like noises, like loud bangs coming from upstairs. We ran upstairs, nothing going on. We caught 3 full body apparitions, including the possible old owner coming out of the restroom area, like hobbling. He was only about 5 feet tall, and he was hobbling, and he didn't look like he was out of our time period. He looked like he was from probably the 1800s. The way he was dressed and stuff. So yeah, that was an amazing location. I don't want to get too much into that because I don't want to ruin video for you. But if you want to go back through our YouTube channel, I don't think it's on a Rumble channel, but it's on a YouTube channel. If you want to go back through and find Smitty's Cafe, unfortunately, they've moved since, and it's under new ownership. So, unfortunately, we have not been back there to see if we can continue our research there. But I would love to, and especially with the new gear that we just ordered. Anyways, all right. So let me really quickly, just tell you what just happened. We have 5 dogs. The little one that you heard barking a few minutes ago, his name is Zeus. He's a 7-month-old little puppy that we basically took on, and I let him out because he wanted to be out with other dogs. He's very timid of going outside, so when he goes outside, I let him go out. He had gone down. We have about a quarter of an acre here. He had gone down to back where the back of the fence was. I saw him, and essentially, and this is where it gets weird. We have a sliding door in our bedroom, and then we have a door where our kitchen / dining room is. And I let everybody else in but him. And I basically turned around, closed the door, locked the door, walked away, and he was still on the rock pile down, because we have an area where it kind of floods. So all the water floods into that rock pile and then runs out through the back of our yard. He was walking around down there, exploring, having a good time. And as I turn around, there he is. Like, whoa, what the hell just happened here? Talk about paranormal. I have no explanation for that. How the hell did he get back inside so quickly? There's no way. He would have had to go about 40, 50 feet in about a second. There's no way that could have just happened. So I'm like, oh, crap. I left the slider open in our bedroom, and I walked out there, and nope, it's closed and locked. So I have no explanation for this. There's been a lot of strange things like this happening lately. As you can see, I'm scratching my head. I don't know where that clock keeps popping up from. But anyways, yeah, very, very strange. No explanation for that. And I'm going to end this on that. But again, thank you guys so much for listening. If you want to buy us a coffee, the link's down below. It basically $3 a coffee. I'm not going to get into all that today. Keep showing that. I don't want to keep hammering people on that, but that's a way to support our channel. Also, if it doesn't matter if you're listening on our audio or both our video channels, our Rumble or our YouTube, all the links are down below to anything that basically we talk about if we use somebody else's content. But our links are down below to our website, to Manscaped. If you want to go check out Manscaped, really cool stuff. I will be reviewing more stuff next week, later on this week, excuse me, and talking to you about the products that I've been given to try out. So yeah, if you want to check that out, our website, deepwoodsparanormal.com. That's essentially a place where you can see our podcasts, see and listen to our podcasts. You can view our podcasts on our YouTube channel there, and then of course we have our paranormal events, which I need to add to. In the process of doing that, I'm working on dates and schedules, how much money it's going to be for everything. So anyways, we appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for liking, subscribing. If you can do me a favor, hit that thumbs up if you really like this video. We appreciate it. It helps us continue to grow our YouTube channel and make sure that YouTube knows that, hey, this is something people want to watch. So anyways, we have some investigations coming up. We will post that as soon as I get caught up on everything else that I'm doing. I've got a big, long list of things that I need to do. I'm still reviewing video and evidence, so I apologize for the dogs barking. Anyways, we will catch you on the next one. You guys have a good one.